So let me know if you ever felt like your life was falling apart, only to look back later and realize it was actually falling together. See, maybe a breakup shattered you, or a job loss cracked open something you didn't even know needed to heal. But see, what if those moments of chaos weren't setbacks, but sacred invitations from your soul? So today I want to take you on a journey through chaos theory, which is a concept from science that surprisingly explains a lot about our spiritual evolution. So stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see what might feel like destruction is often divine design. So in 1961, meteorologist Edward Lorenz discovered something stunning. He discovered that tiny changes in a weather model led to wildly different outcomes. He's the one that actually coined the term the butterfly effect, right? Remember that 90s movie called The Butterfly Effect? Well, it's all about the idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil could set off a tornado all the way in Texas. So this concept became the cornerstone of what we know to be chaos theory, which refers to, in complex systems, small inputs can cause massive ripple effects. So from a spiritual perspective, your soul evolves in the same way. One unexpected conversation, one book you stumble upon, or one moment of stillness can shift the entire trajectory of your life. See, I remember sitting in a meditation class the first time I started meditating. See, I was numb from a toxic relationship and disconnected from my true purpose. At the time, it seemed like nothing profound was happening, except everything changed, right? I felt my soul again. That tiny spark unraveled years of conditioning and led me here, to this work, to this path, right now. And as we will see, this unpredictability is not random. It's how the soul whispers us home. See, in chaos theory, systems don't grow in neat, tidy lines, right? They twist, they spiral, and often seem to loop back before even breaking through. And that's exactly how spiritual growth works, right? You might clear one limiting belief, only to meet it again in a deeper form. You also might feel aligned one month and lost the next. But just like natural spirals, the shape of galaxies, hurricanes, seashells, right? Your healing also follows a sacred spiral and not a straight line. So I want you to think of it like climbing a mountain with switchbacks, right? Which are those zigzaggy paths to take to get up to the mountain, right? You may feel like you're turning away from the peak, but you're still ascending. See, in psychology, this matches what's known as post-traumatic growth, right? Where people evolve in self-awareness, relationships, and spiritual depth after going through a hardship. So if you're in a season that feels chaotic, trust the spiral. See, your soul knows the way. So in chaos theory, even systems that seem messy or unpredictable are being pulled toward invisible patterns, which are called strange attractors, right? These attractors, they create coherence within the chaos. And ultimately, they guide the system toward a natural rhythm, even if it looks scattered on the surface. So I like to think of your soul in the same way as that strange attractor, right? Even when you feel stuck, lost, or out of alignment, your higher self is gently tugging you back toward the truth. See, it's not loud, it doesn't push, but it pulls you with intuitive nudges, synchronicities, and what I call sacred discomfort, right? Which is that restless ache that says, this is not it. So I'm going to give you a quick example. So imagine someone who keeps cycling through unfulfilling jobs, right? On the surface, it probably looks like poor career planning or maybe impulsive decisions. right? But underneath, their soul is whispering, you weren't meant to stay in survival mode. You're here to create, to serve, and to awaken. And that discomfort becomes louder with each misaligned choice. And not as a punishment, but as redirection. See, that's how strange attractors work, right? The chaos is part of the process of being pulled toward your soul's deeper pattern. And one of the most beautiful principles in chaos theory is emergence, right? It's the idea that order spontaneously arises out of disorder without a controlling force. So think about this. Nature is full of this, right? You might see a forest regrow after a wildfire. You'll see stem cells reorganize after trauma, and weather system stabilizes after storms. And so your inner world works the same exact way, right? After emotional collapse, an existential crisis, or an ego death, something new begins to emerge, right? This is the point where your spiritual self begins to reorganize, right? Where it realigns your energy, your perception, and your sense of identity in a way that supports your soul's truth. Here's the thing. When I say your spiritual self reorganizes, I'm not implying that your soul itself is broken or it needs fixing. Because the truth is, your soul is whole. And it always is and always has been. But what does shift is your egoic identity, right? It's those outdated beliefs, roles, and personas built to keep you safe. And in times of chaos, right, the ego structure weakens and it loosens its grip. And that's when the soul can shine through more clearly, right? So that's when your intuition sharpens, right? Your truth deepens, your values realign. So in essence, the ego collapses and your soul expands into the space that collapse created. So this is self-organization in motion, right? Your inner system rebuilding itself around a higher truth. See, neuroscience shows that after high stress events, the brain forms new neural pathways, especially paired with emotional integration and meaning making. And see, your spiritual growth also mirrors this. So after chaos, there's the potential for a higher order self to emerge, right? A self that's more authentic, more aligned, and more free. So yes, your breakdown might just be your soul's breakthrough. And then lastly, we have fractals. So fractals are repeating patterns found in chaos theory, right? From snowflakes to tree branches to galaxies. See, they're beautiful, they're infinite, and they're also self-replicating. And the thing is that your soul is a fractal of the divine, right? The patterns you heal, your trauma, your fears, your beliefs, they don't just change your life. They ripple into your family, your community, and the collective field. So here's an example. When you choose to break a generational pattern of emotional suppression, right, you not only change your own destiny, but you soften it for the next generation. And to follow that up, you have epigenetics, right? Epigenetics has shown that healing trauma can alter genetic expression, which then influences future generations. So yes, your evolution matters. And the thing is, you're not just a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. So now what does chaos theory teach us about soul evolution? Well, it teaches us that your pain is not your punishment, that your mess is not meaningless, and that even when it all falls apart, you are being reorganized into something more true. See, it's not the version of you shaped by fear or expectation. It's not the identity built to please, to protect, or to survive, but it's the version of you that is sourced from your soul, from your essence, from your divine design. So in bringing it all together and recapping, right? The butterfly effect reminds us that even the smallest shift, a choice, a moment of stillness, a spark of insight can ripple through your entire life and rewrite your destiny. Then there's the non-linear spiral, which shows that your growth isn't meant to be tidy or linear. It loops, it curves, it revisits old wounds at deeper levels. But each turn of the spiral brings you closer to wholeness. And then there's the strange attractor, which teaches that your soul is always calling you home, even through missteps, resistance, and chaos, right? There's a sacred pattern pulling you back into alignment with your truth. And then there's the self-healing system, right? It reminds you that even after collapse, something wiser emerges. See, the ego may dissolve, but the soul expands. And we see that healing arises from within you when you surrender control. And then lastly, there's the fractal of the divine, which reveals that your journey is not separate from the whole. It reflects it. Your healing isn't just personal. It contributes to the collective evolution. See, you are both the seed and the soil, and the wave and the ocean. So the next time life feels chaotic, like everything is unraveling, remember this: you are not broken, you are becoming. The unraveling is not the end. It's the beginning of a deeper truth being revealed. See, this is how your soul evolves, not in perfect lines, but through sacred spirals, divine disruptions, and cosmic reorganization.